Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever and whenever you're listening. In this episode, I chat with Andrew Griffiths. Now, I used to work with Andrew at Havas People in the UK, and then he moved across to Havas People in Australia. So I wanted to catch up with him to get his view on what the world of employer branding is like in Australia. Also to hear a bit about how he's taken his consumer branding experience in Australia and apply that to the world of employer branding. Let's get on with the chat. Good morning, Andrew. How are you doing?
Yeah, really well, thanks, Chris. Well, not morning for me. It's 6:45 in the evening here in Melbourne. So
Nice.
Long day, but pretty well, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks. Good. Yeah, it's winter's definitely coming in the UK. I think we've finally said goodbye to the summer after our mini September heat wave. So it's great to have you on the episode on the pod. So thanks for your time. No, you're busy, but it's great to take a bit of time out to have a bit of chat. This is not the first time we've talked. Obviously, we've known each other for a good few years, and we used to work at Havas People in the UK a few years ago, and of course you moved to Australia. So tell us a bit about what you've been up to.
Yeah, well, as you say, we worked together in the glory days of Havas People, but I was lucky enough to get the opportunity to join the team over in Melbourne back in 2016, and they just won a few big clients over here, so there was the chance to add some employer branding knowledge to the local team, and that was initially meant to be a 6-month thing, and here I am nearly 5 years later. So when I first moved over, it was such an exciting move for me personally, as well as professionally. I was pretty tired of London. It was, as you know, it can be a slog. So I was exposed to some great work with some big clients, similar to the size and scale of who we were working with in London. So Telstra, Australia's biggest telco, and Coles, which is one of Australia's biggest and best known retail brands. And I was fortunate enough to get exposed to some really interesting briefs, and we did some award-winning work for Telstra in the Indigenous attraction space, which is a big focus for big businesses in Australia, is the employment of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. It's become a real passion of mine over the years. And after a couple of years of graft in Melbourne, the strategic direction of the agency changed a bit, and there was more of a focus on the bigger budget consumer brand and media clients. So as account managers, our remit changed substantially. So whilst we were still servicing employer branding clients, we also transitioned to consumer brand clients. So everything from dairy producers to share trading platforms to automotive brands. So I got to lead the account for a Chinese car brand, which meant I got to travel to China a few years ago, which is something I never thought I'd be able to say when I was working with you in London. But earlier this year, after 7.5 very happy years on both sides of the world with Havas, I moved to the dark side, and so now working in-house as an employer brand manager at the same retailer that was my client when I first moved here. So nice to come full circle. But I think it's fair to say that I wouldn't be here today without some of the amazing people we got to work with back in London. So, Craig DB, Henna, Dan and H, Jules, you, of course. The list is endless, really. And I look back and was very fortunate to have been involved with some great projects. And you look back on some of the great clients that got to work with back in London, AB InBev, TfL, Tesco. It really brings back fond memories. It was great to kickstart my passion for employer branding on those types of projects. So from a professional standpoint, been up to a fair bit in my personal life. Work aside, did all the things my mum feared I would do when I said I was moving to Australia. Met a girl, had kids, and decided that there's no better place to live in the world than Melbourne. So
I thought that might happen. I had an inkling that might happen. In fact, I probably even mentioned it, having a beer when we said goodbye. Yeah, but it's when you were in, so at Havas People, you were in a client service role, weren't you? So so kind of like at the centre of all of your accounts, kind of pulling the strings and bringing various specialists together, and of course working with clients to obviously answer their problems and their challenges. And when you moved to Havas in Australia, what was your role there? Is it a similar kind of role?
Yeah, in an account management role. So we had a small accounts team. So I was probably senior account manager when I first joined, and then moved up to AD. we didn't have enough clients or big client portfolios to have I suppose an senior account director role or client partner role in the agency. So left Havas People as account director to take up my current role in house.
Nice. And so then you went into the consumer space, and so going over to China, working for a automotive client, that's awesome. You also got to work, with retailers as well. What are your thoughts on that thing of kind of moving from employer to consumer, and what do you think that's done for your career so far?
Yeah, well, look, I think it's really helped. I think looking back, taking a step back, I'm an altruist. I think, that's someone, I looked at the definition earlier. I think it's someone who demonstrates selfless concern for the well-being of others. But I get a buzz out of helping and working with others and collaborating, tackling challenges as a group. When you put a career lens on that, that's really translated to the way I've worked with colleagues and with clients. And it's also, how I've also really always worked in those client management or customer facing roles. So I guess it's a mindset, but it's really shaped the way I see marketing. I've always believed in that inbound marketing methodology, giving away great content, advice and ideas for free, building trust over time. And I guess that's also shaped the way I do employer branding. And I've always tried to help people find meaning in their life. Only if they've ever asked for it. I wouldn't throw it at people if they've not asked for it, or in their careers. And I've always tried to support people to make better career decisions. And before I joined Havas, I was actually working for a consultancy, and we sold behavioral assessments. So I was very well versed on the idea that as individuals, we're all geared and suited to working in very different work environments and situations. And again, I think that's helped my philosophy around EB. And it also made me realize when I was working on more consumer brand related work, I just didn't get a real buzz out of it. So whilst it was great for some things, bigger production and media budgets, for one, you could see the impacts of your work in market very quickly. I just wasn't as passionate about helping brands sell cars or move blocks of cheese. It was even brand campaigns felt very transactional. Clients were always telling us, we need to talk more about the product features, put your price on it. Of course, there's an emotional investment in buying things, but clearly the investment people make in pursuing different career paths, whether that's through choice or whether it's something that's forced upon them, like we're seeing a lot of at the moment, these are often life-changing moves. So I think it's important that people have all of the tools and insights at their disposal to make sure it's the right one. And I think that's where people like us can help. And I would say that we're, as an employee brand practitioners, we're in the business of helping people find careers that help them live the types of lives they want to.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's sad to say, and I reckon there's probably a load of research to counter what I'm suggesting here, but we build our life around our careers, and careers are real enablers in life. So it's important we're in the right ones. And I think that's our duty as employee brand practitioners, to connect talent with brands and career opportunities that are going to add value to their lives. And I think the best leaders and certainly the best employee brand professionals understand that, and would probably go to great lengths to design programs and communications that help people wherever they are in their life cycle, and understand how a business will help them use their capabilities to be more productive.
Exactly. And then I think it's go on.
One of the benefits of spending time working in both worlds, both consumer and employee brand, is that I got to work with a lot of smart brand and media strategists and creatives, and probably been able to steal some of their thinking around comms ecosystems and social strategy, and put a people lens on them to pretty good effect in the work I'm doing at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're right about, you think about things you purchase over your lifetime. You talk about careers, that's pretty big ticket purchase item, isn't it? Really. So I think it's important, whether it's that first step or next step in someone's career, they need to be making that with confidence, and also with the right kind of insight, because if they don't make the right choice, okay, they can move on to another role, but it can have effect on the rest of their life. And good, we could start talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, etc., yada yada, where actually that is really important in terms of that mastery of things. There's lots of things we like to feel that we are mastering in life, and no doubt one of those is what we do when we're earning money. So yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. So
I think as well, just on that idea of borrowing and stealing ideas, I worked with a great brand and media strategist at Havas in Melbourne, and I've pinched all of his lovely diagrams, and whether you call them content pyramids or funnels, whatever. I'm
Yeah,
not going to blend into either, but I think you'll agree, like, and I know you all agree, certainly many of the same content marketing principles apply in our world. Whatever you want to call them, pyramids or funnels, can be applied to the candidate experience. So can I quickly help job seekers find suitable roles and then get them to understand and get excited about the capability requirements of a vacancy as they're kind of either bottom of the pyramid or top of the funnel, however you want to look at it, you know. The next step, can I help them understand the types of people they'll be working with and why they choose to join, stay and grow with the business, and then looking at complementing some of those elements by helping them understand some of the non-job focused elements, you know, culture, values, ties to community, the social aspects in a role. I found out that where I work, we had a community choir the other day, and they're still getting together to sing virtually on WebEx, and I just thought,
brilliant, that's great.
I just had to share it with my partner. I was like, this is brilliant. Why are we not telling people about this stuff that, you know, no one will know about unless we talk about it on social? I was like, I just wanted to tell everyone about it. I thought it was such a great, cool story. And I guess those kind of things that you can apply to content marketing as part of your employee branding strategies is really where I get a buzz. And I think you'd probably agree that it's all about trying to find those unique stories that will resonate with someone that you probably want to speak with.
Definitely. I think it's that, about creating that kind of, those stories that create some sort of empathy, or someone can have empathy for, or someone can aspire to, but also, you know, there's that content that's actually, dare I say it, going to be useful, not necessarily a sexy word, you know, in the creative world, but, you know, useful content, you know, become a utility for an individual. And, you know, they're going to feel some sort of rapport with you, you know, eventually. As you mentioned about pyramids, you've probably seen my LinkedIn post about that I did a few weeks ago, which is I think a Minions animated GIF of a pyramid being turned upside down. But kind of talking about funnels and pyramids, and there's obviously marketers talk about funnels extensively, but I always like to think of funnel more as a spin it around and turn it into a pyramid, because actually I think when you think about funnels, it feels more about just getting people through the process, so enough eyes stick on a product so they can buy it, as opposed to building a foundation of awareness. Because if you don't get that proper application, that proper, you know, that right employee, that right candidate, then you don't have anything. So I think building a foundation first of awareness, you know, and that kind of interaction, that preference towards a brand is really important for that top of the pyramid, basically. So yeah, I might have a pyramid conversation in an episode in the next few weeks. But yeah,
all for the pyramid.
exactly, mate. So the employer marketing world in Australia, so you've, you know, been there for a few years now. What's the world like there on that side of the world in employer marketing?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, if I'm brutally honest, and I know it sounds a bit cliche, you've probably heard this in all walks of life about Australia, but I feel like we've always been playing catch up in Australia, certainly from an employer brand perspective. And I remember when I moved over, 4.5 years ago, none of the accounts I was working on had ever done any paid social. Programmatic hadn't been used effectively in any of the campaigns I was involved with. You know, certainly from a graduate marketing perspective, which was a real eye-opener. So it was great to show the team how some of those things that we treated as standard practice in London all those years ago could really drive effective results. So I think we're probably closer to being on a level playing field these days. There does seem to be a lot more sophistication across the market, both from a creative perspective and through some of the more innovative channel work brands here are doing. I still say that the best practice model applies wherever you are in the world, which is, in my mind, building a clear and unique insight-led proposition for why great talent should want to join, stay and grow with you, and then using your people to amplify those messages through their stories, and then using the right channel mix to get in front of the people you want to hire more of. I mean, it sounds simple, but I think that's always going to be key. But when I think specifically about Australia, what springs to mind are some of the HR tech startups that originated here, which are helping brands do some great work in the people space. So Onboarder, which is a very smart app-based onboarding platform to help both new joiners and their line managers nail onboarding. And we're really talking best in class in terms of usability. We used to use it at Havas. We designed a very basic but smart algorithm or whatever you call it, which meant line managers knew their new joiners' favorite 3 p.m. snack and would have it delivered to them on their first day. So really fun but effective stuff like that, on top of all the usual first day IT setup and check-ins, months down the path. So that springs to mind. Culture Amp, which is one of the world's best engagement survey platforms, used by thousands of businesses globally. They're an Aussie-based business. So there's definitely HR and talent smarts over this side of the world, and brands are making the most of these types of tools to create better people experiences, which for me is a big part of EB. But when it comes to the impacts of COVID and this new world we're living in, I thought about this, and there's probably two chains of thought around how COVID's impacted employee branding in Australia, because I think we need to talk about that. But I think what's also important for you to think about is, in Australia, we've been suffering for longer than just through COVID. So preceding that, we've had drought for years, we've had massive floods, and then we had the devastating bushfires from November last year through the start of this year, which has impacted so many communities and businesses so massively. So we've been in the wars literally. So I guess that there's something I'd call unconscious employee branding work. So these days, given the current world we're in, there's probably less distinction between consumer brands and employer brands than ever. I guess that you treat them one and the same, really. I think the brands who've stood up and said and acted on treating their people really well through all of those terrible things I've talked about, particularly those team members in public customer facing roles, that will define their brand for years to come in the eyes of their customers, but also their employees and their candidates. And I guess as people, we want to know that we're respected, we're looked after and well rewarded. And I think brands with customer facing team members who've been really well looked after during this time, especially in Australia, I think those are the brands that will come out of this stronger if they can. I anticipate these are the types of brands that have been able to strengthen relationships with their people and make them feel safe, and that their well-being is important. Ultimately to make them feel proud to work there. That's a good investment in people and business strategy. And I know I'm going probably a bit off track here, but I just, one of the sub thought I had around that is that brands have started to use their people, or given team members the freedom to volunteer their own time to support communities. And again, I think that really shows smarts. I think that's a real show of intent around their culture and their values. And people will look favorably on their brands as customers, but then also consider what values they share as a potential future place to work. So I think of Telstra, they were asking their or giving their team members the opportunity to volunteer to help man their customer service lines through COVID. Like Coles, team members are delivering care packages to those in need. So I think essentially these are consumer brand or corporate affair style plays, but the employees and the team members are the ones delivering that. And I think that's a bit of a step change in what I'm kind of calling unconscious employer branding work. And then you think of like brands like EY, like using their people for good. I don't know whether you saw their recent campaign. It's called Rebuild Your Working World. I know it's not just an Australian case study, but they're committing to use their talent acquisition teams and their recruiters to support newly unemployed people to get back on their feet through virtual coaching webinars, through CV writing classes. I mean, that's massive. Probably as an altruist, that really resonates with me, but love to know the uptake to it. I'm sure it was pretty great.
Well, I think everything you're saying is absolutely spot on. It just goes to show that employer branding is so much more than just the external marketing. It's not that you have one message that you send out externally and then it's totally different internally. It's something where it touches on every part of that employee experience, whether it's as a potential candidate all the way through to exiting an organization. So absolutely, I think. And also those kind of things about kind of that unconscious activity is so important. I think the role of employer branding, employer marketing, teams and specialists is to bottle that stuff up. You mentioned the choir, on Zoom, is bottling that up. It's seeing what's going on around an organization and packaging it up so actually that can then be shown externally, so that people can really see what it's like.
I agree, and I think brands have a very important role to play in society, more so than ever now. And I just think about the people who are newly unemployed, like the things that they're going through. you know, when people are tired, nervous, stressed, looking for jobs whilst trying to support their families. These people are, you know, likely unemployed for the first time in 20 years. How, as brands, we help them regain confidence, be the best that they can be at the interview? You know, I've got an idea around how we could use social to be able to, a bit like EY were doing. I was pretty miffed that they put that campaign out, because I had similar thoughts, and I know I mentioned it to you a month or so ago, but I guess just the ways that I call it treating candidates like you would do your customers. I mean, which brands can afford to lose customers at the moment? I suggest that there's many employers who haven't responded to online applications, and that could be for many reasons, but you know, who've then lost that person as a potential customer because of a negative recruitment experience. If you flip it on its head and say, well, actually, look, I didn't get the job, but the experience I had with that brand, you know, I learned so much during that process. They helped me understand how to perform on a video webinar, you know, all of these types of things that doesn't take a lot of effort, but can really impact both candidates and then their perception of brands as future customers. I think it's not hard to get right, and I'd love to see more brands doing it.
Definitely. That's why, you know, for me, that's one of the reasons I created this podcast, is because I think there is still not enough, there aren't enough good examples out there of content marketing through an employer or talent attraction lens, really. And there's so much opportunity, and ultimately it's about, you know, brands building a long-term relationship with talent, and whether that person joins next week or joins in 2 months' time or 3 years' time or 10 years' time, you know, you want to make sure that actually we already have a, you know, good understanding of each other, and content marketing has a really important role to play in that, for sure. So yeah, EY may have done it, but you know, it's something that a lot of organizations should do. So you know, I'd look forward to seeing something come from your part of the world, mate. That's for sure, because it's definitely needed. That's for sure, especially now, where, as you say, people do need that support and help, and especially, like, I mean, in the UK, see, there's always been a lot of talk about youth unemployment, but that's particularly being hit hard, you know, now, and employers have a massive responsibility to actually make sure that people coming in to the workforce are doing that with confidence and doing that with the right amount of knowledge to then find that right thing, find that right role. It's not to say that someone should be in the role they're going to be in the rest of their life, you know, so it's that important, but it's about giving people the chance to discover what is right for them. And employers sit on so much information, so many stories, you know, screening thousands of applications, you know, every year, that they know what people, you know, need to be like, and they've got enough information to, dare I say it, become a bit of a teacher of what they should be doing. And in terms
but it's win-win. Like,
yeah, totally.
It supports the candidates, but at the same time, if candidates are coming into, say, a video interview well prepared, they know what to expect, they know what employers are looking for because they've read a blog about how to nail your next video interview, or how to perform in a behavioral based interview scenario, whatever the title of the blog is. It's also going to help the hiring manager or the TA professional have a more meaningful conversation to understand fit. And I suppose of those 30-minute job interviews where you never get to see anyone in real life, you know, you really want to be able to use those conversations to good effect. So I think, as I say, it is win-win. And the more organizations who can add some personality to these, you know, faceless processes these days are going to be the ones that win out in the end. I'm convinced of that. Exactly.
And maybe I say this partly because it's, you know, I'm in this space, and I kind of hope it's going to be the case, but I think it will be where I think really now, and I've spoken about it on previous episodes, I think now really organizations who say, you know, people are our strongest asset, and it's our people who make us different. I think that's now really being realized, because, you know, I think it's something that's been maybe used as a bit of a buzz phrase perhaps in the past, where I think, you know, you look at, in the UK, you look at ads on TV, and goodness knows how many ads are including their people, their employees, front and center of those ad campaigns. Well, there's actually, I'll have to share it with you, but I'll put it in my blog post connected to this episode. But there's something from the US where it's doing it is a video, which is a show reel of different videos, corporate videos from companies, and it's basically talking about how we're here for you during COVID. So it's a bit of a parody, but it's kind of showing how that can be maybe taken to an extent where it's kind of people just saying it in response and saying it without meaning. But I think definitely, there is that thing about now, I think employer marketing, employer branding, whatever you want to call it, the thing about, communications with current and future talent is so much more important and will be much more important because, I had an episode with Gavin Richardson, who wrote a book called The Transformation Time Bomb, and he was talking about how there are investors now, and a significant number of investors that will only invest in companies that are doing right by their employees and doing right by their customers, and doing right by the communities they serve. And when that happens more, and that's what shareholders want, because they see that there's going to be long-term return on it, then this will become even more important. So, he's hoping that will definitely continue and become even more important over the years. Should we finish off with putting together a little bit of maybe an agenda item for, say, that next talent attraction meeting that some of our listeners may have? What should be an agenda item on that next meeting?
Yeah, good one. I mean, look, I guess that depends on what's going on in our listeners' worlds, but and who they'd want to invite to a meeting. I'll come up with a hypothetical agenda on things that I think are important, and who I'd want there. Does that sound all right?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So, look, I'd want to have my head of talent acquisition. So I'm an employee brand manager. I'd have my head of talent acquisition. I'd have my head of people experience there, probably an emerging talent lead, and I'd have someone from brand or marketing. And I'd probably speak to them about the following points, because these are all passion points of mine. So first thing on the agenda would be, I guess, in terms of attraction and retention, speaking to the group, what are we doing to build out our EVP? So getting very clear on the business case. Who needs to be inputting to the brief, what steps of the journey those people will be involved at, and how we're going to take marketing and brand on that journey. I read a recent Universum study which showed that, I think it was Inspiring Purpose, that they positioned it as was one of the most important EVP elements to the highest performing companies. So how are we ensuring that our employee value proposition aligns with our CVP? And then finally looking at, specifically speaking to the talent acquisition person around, well, what are we going to do what are our outputs going to be, and how are they going to help your team in terms of, hiring managers guides, recruiter playbooks, all of those types of things. And if anyone's really interested, I'd probably want to get their view on the research methodology. I think, that's crucial to the successful EVP project. Second on the agenda would be job ads. And I know it sounds sad, but I think there's a real art and craft to compelling job ads.
Yeah, for sure.
It's often the first thing a prospective candidate will get to see about your brand. And but ultimately for me, that the content has to nail two things. So first is the role going to help me to utilize my capabilities to my full potential, so I can be productive and engaged at work? And the second thing would be, am I going to be doing meaningful work where I can use my background, skills, and the things I'm good at to make a meaningful difference in my career? And I don't think that should be hard for hiring managers to articulate. And I like the way that brands like HubSpot write their job ads. So there's a role descriptor, there's responsibilities which articulate the technical or job related requirement and how it will be put to good use. And then something around, I quite like this idea of, if you were in the role, here's some of the projects you might have worked on in the last week, to give candidates that real understanding of what they're going to be working on. And I think rather than just saying or listing a whole load of skills as to what you might have done in your previous career, giving candidates a really good understanding of some of the projects they're going to get their teeth into, I think is is a really nice view of the business. And if you're looking at, then bookending that core content with really short, succinct about us, and we value applications from type sections, which are clearly articulating the brand's purpose and how team members contribute towards it, I think that's a pretty good job at it. I don't know whether you'd agree or.
Yeah, definitely. I found that a number of situations over the years where you look at job ads, and they're often like really just job descriptions, very two different things, and they really kind of make sense to the person who's written them, rather than the person who doesn't necessarily know the organization. They may obviously know the role, but I think you're absolutely right. Kind of those job ads are, I think, really important, because ultimately when it comes to it, for all the content that potential candidates will see, they need to see something about, well, what roles are worth me shopping for, basically. And if you're not sure about the products on the shelf, so to speak, then you're not gonna check out, basically. You're not gonna check out with the right products that's gonna help you get on with your life. So to use a kind of product analogy there, but I think absolutely. And I'd say that it's a really good shout about making sure that you got someone from marketing and brand in that meeting as well. And I think in particular, I suppose I would say this given what I do, but I think making sure that you're having people involved in marketing, but through a people talent lens, I think is really important, because you can know marketing and you can know recruitment, but I think the sweet spot in the middle is understanding both. And so I think the role of those people are really important in organizations. And so finding those people in marketing who have that that skill, or finding those people in recruitment who have the other respective complementary skill in marketing, I think is really important.
And this is, again, a real passion point for me. It would be around emerging talent attraction. And I think certainly in Australia, it's like it will be in the UK, like it will be anywhere. It's a very congested talent market. And I know there's a lot of perspectives around whether it's still worth going to university, or whether, is it, some of the big four aren't now looking at university degrees, whatever. Google are now introducing their own qualifications and degrees, which you can do in 6 months.
Degree, it's bonkers.
So I just think there's a lot of demand for great student talent, but I also think, what are we doing to build our brand? What are we doing to build our proposition and make it clear and understandable for students? And I guess, what are we doing to make sure that students have the best experience with us as a brand, as a customer, but also as a candidate? And I think I'm a big believer, and I remember Graham Wright talking at length about this in our Havas People days, about employers building relationships with students very on in their university life. So think to the end of first year going into second year, how we're getting on good talent's radars very early on, so that if you've got an internship program after the end of second year, or before your penultimate year, they're primed and ready to apply for that internship program. And I think we all know the success of roll off from internship programs into the graduate program, and I think most of the work's already been done by that stage. And I think from a channel perspective, what's the plan? Like, grad season in Australia is in February and March, and I dare say we won't be in a good place by then still. And I think traditionally it's similar to the UK: grad fairs, campus visits, networking events. Realistically, those things aren't going to be happening anymore. So what, as grad recruiters, as grad talent people, what are we going to use instead of those types of experiences where we're not seeing people face to face? How can we stand out from the crowd through social media? Probably one for you on that one, but I'm still not a TikTok believer. I know Jules will kill me given he works there now, but give me Instagram any day of the week. But I would love your perspective on that, because
TikTok's like, I mean, I do I talk quite a bit about TikTok, and I think yes, it is about singing and it is about dancing, but it's so much more as well. When you have the World Health Organization putting out content on TikTok to help people through COVID and stay safe, and learn on TikTok is, I think it is learn on TikTok hashtag has got like 30 billion video views, or approaching 30 billion video views. You know, it's and one of my previous episode was talking about TikTok, and we got into politics a little bit and talked about Trump and the potential ban in the US for TikTok, and Oracle getting involved in the tech partner purchase. That's because partly, I'd say, dare I say it, because, you know, TikTok is being used by Gen Z, he says, with, you know, quote marks in the air, to actually create some sort of political movement and political, you know, viewpoints. And that had an effect on one of Trump's, you know, rallies, that's for sure, because they bought up all these tickets and never intended on actually, you know, going to the rally. So I think TikTok is definitely becoming more for what it was known, maybe from its history of music, the Musical.ly days, when it was just about dancing and, you know, dancing to songs, and but it is, yeah, so much more. So I think there's a big opportunity there. It's definitely a place where people can learn things, you know, people can, you know, be inspired by other people, and get a view on kind of behind the scenes. There's quite a bit around Tesco, a few Tesco employees in the UK using TikTok quite a bit, which gives you quite a good behind the scenes view of TikTok, which is pretty cool. So it'd be interesting to see what Tesco do with that, if they've done anything already on that. But
yeah, I've seen all of Walmart videos. I've seen Air New Zealand cabin crew do it. I think that was quite an effective piece. Once they'd all been furloughed or stood down, they'd all rallied around the brand and said, you know, we still love you, even though you've made us redundant. We're here to help each other. I thought it was a nice way to connect, and you know, I can certainly see it. I'm just yet to be convinced. Why would you not invest in Instagram and you know, build your, which is already, you know, still very well used by
you do both, right, though, don't you? You do both. You know, I think it's, you know, you make sure you cover your bases, really. I think it's not about necessarily, you know, blitzkrieging it on both channels, but choosing it at the right time, you know, because I'm on here at the moment on TikTok, and, you know, there are, you know, things like training to, you know, exercise tutorials, you know, there's learn with TikTok.
There's even like TikTok all this time.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Yeah. Yeah, I look forward to listening to it when I hear the recording. Yeah. Anyway, I think that's a whole
maybe you can help,
isn't it?
Work out my social strategy or paid social strategy in the future.
Maybe, mate.
There's two more agenda items, so stick with me.
No, go for it. Yeah, go on. We've still got time, mate. We've got loads of time.
I'd want to talk about onboarding.
Yeah.
Because I think, again, you know, how are we planning to be the best business in the world at nailing onboarding? Yeah. Especially in this world we're all living with. I mean, I was onboarded virtually in my new role, and, you know, the team did a really good job, but there's going to be lots of opportunities to do more of this and to get really good at it. And I know it's not an easy brief, and I know we're going to need good tech to enable it, but from a content perspective, I think it's a really good opportunity to set our stall out early. It's a great opportunity to bridge some of that initial excitement and momentum we get once we've been offered the role. You know, how can we ensure that there's not a drop off of engagement after that first week when you know, everyone's interested in you, and you know, you've got your starter pack and your new laptop delivered to your house. What are we doing a month in? What check-ins are scheduled? I appreciate a lot of it is contextual to your brand and where you're working, but I think it's a really good opportunity to start off on the right foot and keep it that way. And I guess I'm a bit of an old school romantic on this one, but I do like the welcome pack and the giveaways, but I like to think we can all be aware of the new world of work we're in, and, you know, why not give away a pair of wireless headphones or an iTunes voucher, and to subscribe to a podcast of your choosing, yours maybe, in the welcome pack.
Yeah, good man. Cheers for that.
And no worries for the plug. And you know, look at positioning this way. You know, we know you're going to need a break from the pretty full-on days that you're going to have working from home. We're a business that values flexibility, that encourages work-life balance and well-being. We trust you to get your shit done, take time out, go for a jog on us, use your wireless headphones to do whatever you want. But, you know, we're just sharing that we are understanding your situation. We're with you, and we want you to have some fun along the way with us as a brand, because we're a brand that cares about getting this right. And I think there's great opportunities to think about new joiners more than ever in this new world, that people are going to be joining businesses where they've never met a person face to face. How weird's that? Like, if we can show that we understand who that person is and that we can give them a good experience, then hopefully we're going to be able to drive some really great experiences that make people appreciate what they've signed up for and want to stay for longer. So
I think if you think about those kind of things that you offer, people who are joining with a bit of a marketing hat on, then I think you can make it I think really effective. For example, that thing about giving people access to content. So why not an Audible subscription? And then there's a chance to promote particular books, audio books to your employees, and that can help. Okay, maybe it's about mindfulness. I mean, maybe it's about leadership. There's a whole load of things there, and if someone's got that a few taps, and they can then listen to it while they're running or while they're doing something else, and taking those important breaks from their desk, wherever that desk may be, then all of a sudden you've got something that is definitely kind of more enhanced internal employee communications content.
Well, that's why I like that Google example, because they're investing in people. They're giving people the chance to learn the skills that will benefit Google. They're ultimately expanding pools of talent that they can then mine themselves. I mean, it's not it's not rocket science, but it resonates so well. And I guess that's kind of where I'm kind of going at with some of this thinking around like inbound marketing. It's like giving stuff away for free that is actually going to value that person and you as a brand down the line. And I think there's a lot of ways it can be applied in our weird world of employer branding. But the main reason I wanted the marketing and brand person in this room, and hopefully one of the listeners can reach out and help me with this kind of stuff, and not to say it's a brief that I've got for you, but the final point would be a really simple brief around the next set of videos for our graduate campaign, or whatever kind of recruitment campaign we're talking about. We'll give you really strong insights. We'll give you a very clear creative brief which highlights our distinct proposition and the proof points we need to communicate to the audience. But that job of that brand and marketing person or a creative agency is to come up with a video, or call it an employee branding video, whatever, the likes of which the world has never seen in the recruitment, marketing and graduate attraction world. So I guess like what I'm trying to get to is, how can we make an interesting and effective video that communicates what it's like to work in an organization, which isn't the usual talking head, cut to shot of team members walking into a meeting room, cut back to other team members talking about why they chose an employer and why they love it so much. So as I say, if anyone's listening and has any ideas, please reach out. And it's not to say that I need this right away, but I would love to challenge production companies, creative agencies, to tell me what good looks like now in the video world in this type of space. Because every time I see videos around employment, even when I was on Atlassian's website earlier, it was the same old stuff. And whilst it's really interesting and compelling, I feel like I've seen it before, just with another brand's
I call it lights camera action content. No day is the same content. It has its role, but it's definitely not the kind of what we're looking for. Is, I suppose, more hero content that is showing more than telling. It's less on messaging, more on actually, living those pillars, those values, than it is actually just saying we have those values. It's and that goes back to content, content marketing. I think it's one of the guys at the Content Marketing Institute. I'm not going to get his quote right here, but I don't think that matters. It's the gist of it which is important, which is, what is it? I think advertising or marketing is telling people you're a rock star. Content marketing is proving it. So I think actually proving you are who you say you are through the content you create is really important. And I might put you in touch with some people I know about chatting about the video. I know someone who could would be happy to have a chat with you about that.
I just think like we might not be in our office, I don't know, another 6-12 months, who knows? I'm making a number up, but okay, so I can't do the office cutaway scenes of a guy or a girl walking to a meeting room with a smile on their face and a clipboard in their hand. And I'm not saying that's what I'd want to do, but what is a video about? You know, if we want to show our people, okay, well, what are we showing them? What are we asking them to talk about? I think, I guess, you know, that's what I'd love to be challenged on and told, no, you need to do it this way because no one else is doing it.
Good stuff, mate. So we've got our agenda.
It's one of my meetings that ran over time. So.
That's good. Good chat, though.
We didn't get anywhere.
No, thanks for that. It's and if you've got any other things you want to add, then we can just save it for another chat in the next couple of months or so. So thanks very much for your time, and you get on with your evening, and I'll get on with the rest of my day. But we'll catch up soon. Take care.
Thanks, Chris.
Cheers. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to follow or subscribe for the latest episode drops. And don't forget to get in touch if you want to contribute.